Can you hear me? Yes. So let's just start with some prayers. Good to see you all. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and the rest, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness, devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. May they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. With skillful means and compassion, you are born in the Shakya clan. Unconquerable by others, you vanquish Mara's hordes. Your physical form resplendent like a mountain of gold. To you, the king of the Shakyas, I pay homage. So thank you all for joining. Some of you I have seen already today somewhere else. So that is good. I hope you're all well. And let's maybe just begin, right? Yeah, where are we in the text? Of course, Bodhicharyavatarā, 6th chapter, patience. Why is that important? Because anger is so strong and so destructive. So therefore, patience is, I think Shantideva is saying, the greatest virtue or something like that. The stronghold on the path, because it is the exact antidote to impatience or anger, hatred, aversion, and bitterness, dissatisfaction. And therefore it is so super important. And yeah, to remind ourselves, you know, why anger is so destructive is because it physically destructs or destroys us. You know, our blood pressure goes higher, we are losing our sleep, and we are losing our friends, our families, and I'm sure you also remember even the people we are paying, they will leave us if we are constantly angry, you know, our employees, and spiritually it destroys our merit, and so our positive outlook and our love for sentient beings, and yeah, we get more and more distant to others because we are more and more solidifying me here, I'm right, and you are out there and you are wrong. So love would be not so like desolidifying that, like what is it? Yeah, lighten that up or making it less solid. But anger is like really like sealing that distance, you know, and yeah, carving it in stone. So therefore, anger is really like counterproductive to our social life, but also to our spiritual life. And hence, Shantideva is spending so many verses on patience and is really encouraging us to practice it. And especially in the patience chapter, there's always like in between verses, or in between maybe a couple of verses, there's always like a argument that we might have, you know, what our habitual mind is trying to say to justify why in this or that situation it's justified to be angry. And so Shantideva is dealing with all these attempts of justifying our anger. So let's go into the text. And I think here in between the verses, we have verse 68, right? So here our justification might be, yes, sort of it makes sense what Shantideva said in the previous verses, but the justification is still the enemy started it, sort of, you know, I didn't provoke the enemy. It's like really childish, you know, like in kindergarten, we always said, you know, that he started it or she started it, you know, and that is our justification to be angry. And yeah, so our ego is that childish and that always in the mood or mode to blame others. So that's what it is doing here. And let me find the verse here, 68. There are too many other windows open. Amazing. So Shantideva is answering that attempt, you know, that we have to justify it. Why did I previously commit those actions because of which others now cause me harm? Since everything is related to my actions, why should I bear malice towards these enemies? So even though maybe in reality it's not 100% our fault, you know, because yes, of course, the enemy also has his or her karma and habits and negative emotions. But nevertheless, here in the context of training our mind, we are always focusing on our mind because that is what is to be trained. You know, we are not, I mean, the whole Bodhicharyavatarya is not other training, you know, but it's training ourselves, you know, our mind. It's a mind training. It's also not a mind torturing, you know, because we also need patience and loving kindness with ourselves and empathy. But anyway, it's always our mind that is the focus here. And the outer enemy, we understand that it's, that this is not the most important focus here. And in this verse 68, Shantideva is reminding ourselves that karma is sort of the mastermind behind everything that we experience. Not mind, but of course, but the master director, everything that we experience, and is based on ripening of our karma, and of course also how we experience it is based on our karma. Therefore, everything is created by karma, or everything is mind, is also what Buddha Shakyamuni said in some teachings, without saying that karma is truly existent or mind is truly existent. But this will be more a topic in the 9th chapter. Still, on the relative level, we cannot experience something that is outside of our karma, basically. Impossible. So either we did something, so usually we are getting angry if somebody is behaving bad to us or behaving bad to our dear and near ones. That is actually more the topic at the moment, that we justify our anger because our lovers or teachers or parents are treated badly. And therefore, we can also say yes, they are treated badly because it's their, I mean, that is created by their karma, but that doesn't mean we leave it there. Of course, we want to help, you know, but we just don't want to use that. But Shantideva is saying that it's sort of their karma just to make sure that we are not singling out the enemy to be the bad guy here, you know, but he wants to show us, no, it's either our karma or our lover's karma why we are treated badly. So therefore there's no need to be angry with the enemy. So it's not an accident that we ourselves are blamed or insulted by the enemy or physically hurt. It's not an accident that maybe somebody is talking badly about our teachers or parents or our boyfriend. And yeah, and therefore, yeah, the last line, it said, why should I bear malice towards these enemies? So yeah, that's the point. You know, we are not singling out the enemy anymore as the one and only cause for this difficult situation. And when I say cause or genesis, that is a big topic in especially Shantakirti's Madhyamika-avatara. Maybe some of you have studied that, you know. There's always a question, you know, what is the cause for things? So Shantideva is Shantakirti is using that approach, you know, okay, now there's a certain thing. Here in our case, a certain difficult situation with an enemy. And then Shantakirti is checking, you know, okay, where did that arise from? Did it arise from itself, others, both, or neither, you know? So, and yeah, let's not go into that, but yeah, we always want to know the reason or the cause or origin. And yeah, some say yeah, it's God, you know, so it's genesis from something other, you know. And here also it's the same, you know, it's not the enemy, is not the creator of the whole bad situation. So we are not singling out the enemy to be the cause that is creating all that, but we understand the whole situation comes from so many causes and conditions, which again come from so many other causes and conditions and so on. So therefore there's no need to single out one cause. Yeah, I think that's this one. And then one more, and then we can discuss. 69. It's so scary. I have so many windows open and I don't want to share the wrong ones here. When I have seen this to be so, I should strive for what is meritorious in order to certainly bring about loving thoughts between all. So that is, I think that is addressing what I meant earlier, that anger is creating that distance or separation between people, you know, and really like solidifying that distance. And you know, like we only care about ourselves and we totally ignore the wishes or needs of others, or we think we are good, all good, and the enemy is all bad. So that's solidifying side effect or maybe effect of anger is yeah, addressed here. So so when we recognize that either ourselves or our loved ones, they suffer now in that situation because with this other enemy, with this person, and this is due to many factors, you know, it's our karma, for example, and that I cannot stop easily now. And also it's because our enemy is overwhelmed by ignorance and delusions, and this also I cannot stop easily. So therefore, yeah, we cannot change much in the situation. But at least what we can change is our reaction to it. But of course, that is also not easy because we have a strong habit to react with anger. but still that is the thing we can change in the situation. And therefore, yeah, patience is the answer, sort of, that we try not to follow that impetus or drive of our angry habits. But Shantideva is saying I should strive for what is meritorious. So yeah, I'm sure I have said it a couple of times, but from Abhidharma point of view, in one specific moment towards one specific object, we can only feel like one thing. And therefore, if we feel in that moment to that object, we feel something meritorious, then in that moment to that object, there cannot be any anger. So therefore we are, I don't know, maybe obsessing the space of that moment with something meritorious, so that nothing destructive like anger can manifest. And so, yes, of course, patience is what we practice, but that can then manifest in maybe strengthening our bodhichitta, or being more understanding, more kind, more loving, maybe also bring more happiness or joy in the situation, or more calmness. And with that, we like automatically wish the enemy good things, and we don't want to harm that enemy. And just when we bring that in the situation, yeah, that will then desolidify the the distance or the dualism, and that will bring people together. You know, what I said earlier was more from the beginning of the 6th chapter, that our love, like, I mean, even our family or friends or even our employees, they will leave us if we are constantly angry. So therefore, that is the opposite. You know, the more we bring love to one person or a group of person or a group of people, that will bring these people together. And love, of course, is defined like wanting the other person to be happy and have the causes of happiness. That is what we cited earlier. But practically speaking, yes, we always have attachment, you know, in our love at the moment. And attachment is more based on, more aimed on our own benefit. But yeah, that's how it is at the moment, at least for me. You know, I cannot have like unconditional love, but there's always some kind of attachment in it that maybe is in the disguise of love. But yeah, on the path, we always have this mixture of good qualities and negative habits. So, but then in the process of for Bodhisattva, then we try to develop more this loving kindness, and so that we are more open towards the concern or happiness of others, and that we are not, because of we are so insecure, you know, so therefore then we don't get so attached to people or things. Yeah, so so the love here, the meritorious things that we do, that is yeah, really like a sustainable thing that is constructive, and that is really bringing people together, and that is meant here in the commentaries. Is that understandable so far, or is there something debatable? Sometimes I really get blind or brainwashed, you know, then if I read commentaries or the verses again and again, then really I just seem to just believe with everything. So therefore I'm always happy if there's a critical mind that debates. Emilia.
Arne, well, it's just concrete. Transforming rather than feeling anger, just trying to transform into compassion. I've got, over the past year, I really don't know if it's related to COVID or what's going on, but like 2 people who I really used to believe were my friends, and even use the word friend and a third one. But anyhow, not even bothering to reply to emails. So in 2 instances, I actually contacted 3 people, but asking for help. And one, I really needed help, and the was no. And it's not a spam thing, because even the email, I wasn't on the Yahoo, no. And I felt very, very frustrated. It took me a while to come to terms. It's an impermanence. It's said that, enemies become friends, friends become enemies. And it's like, well, I don't want to see as enemy, but I can't really see as friend. Friend as when His Holiness defines what friendship means, and it just stays. It took me a while to come to terms, with that. But this is I thought it was very hard for me, because it's not talking about a colleague or like neutral, where you can get the reply or whatever or not. So of course I had my expectations. I didn't look at them as enemies, but was quite the opposite. I believed we used to be friends. But anyway, this verse is on bring it to terms that whatever frustration I'm feeling is not really going outside my mind. I have to try to remind myself of that. But yeah, it just comes from all over the place. Really potential for frustration. Being alive is just full on, I think. Anyway, just wanted to share.
Okay, I have 3 thoughts on that. First of all, when we try to understand them, I think what came to my mind was Sangsa Khensa Rinpoche, who said, feelings are the best example for impermanence, because they change, like how they perceive you. Maybe they maybe have, you were maybe a dear friend, but now maybe they have other interests. And it can be much worse, of course, like Rinpoche's example is like, if we are getting married, we are very passionate lovers, and then we maybe become very enemies full of hatred. So that was one point. Yes, that is sort of yes, part of the change and impermanence. And of course, it's good if you don't see them as enemies. That is not necessary. But on a relative level, to protect maybe your feelings and yourself, then it's maybe good not to have too high expectations in them. Otherwise, the higher your expectations, the more frustrated you are. And then, yes, because you mentioned frustration. So here in the mind training teachings, even if the other people are doing the bad thing, and you obviously haven't done something in that situation, of course, it's karma from past life, or whenever, but let's say you really like objectively are innocent in that situation, then yes, it's frustrating. And maybe one is getting angry, but then Shantideva is still saying, okay, don't look on the other people, but just find strategies how to work with that frustration or anger, because that is your main point of focus. And as I said, frustration comes from too high expectations, maybe. And I forgot when it was, but it's somewhere in the 6th chapter, I think it was said, what is it? Let's say expecting other samsaric beings not to hurt you is like expecting the fire of not to be hot. Do you remember that example? So yes, fire is hot by nature. That is really the classical definition, and pramana is hot and burning, and that is the nature of fire. And if you complain, if you put your hands into it, then it doesn't make sense to complain to the fire. And likewise with samsaric beings, it is their default setting, as long as they're in samsara, to hurt each other, and not be empathetic and compassionate. Like, for example, I'm really suffering at the moment here in the flat. There's every day there's another neighbor doing another really noisy thing. It's amazing. Somebody is trying to sing and it really sounds strange. Or then there's party or I don't know. There's always something. But it's for me much more easy if the animals make loud noise. So what I'm trying to say is I have zero expectations that the animals have like a noise consciousness, that they are conscious to what is maybe too noisy. So therefore, because I have less expectations, I can more easily accept that they are noisy. But with the wannabe singer here, I can't understand why she's not just closing the window. That's so easy. So I have more expectations to her. So that's my. Oh, what happened? Yeah, so that is my story. Yeah. I think Ishani was the next one, right?
Yeah, thank you, Arne. So I have this question about this karma and compassion, because as you know, and definitely Pallavi knows too, like in India, we have this very superficial understanding day to day of karma, which is like, oh, this is happening to this person, so it must be their karma, which means we are kind of saying, so they must deserve this. And I feel that this actually makes me a less compassionate person, like a more indifferent person, because I feel, oh, well, it's that suffering. Yes, I want to be compassionate, but at the back of my mind, it's like, it is also their karma, so maybe they actually kind of deserve this. So I was thinking that, sometimes having a superficial understanding of karma can actually cause one to be less compassionate. This was just my vague understanding. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that.
That is interesting. I'm a little bit confused. Have you been there yesterday to Dotulku's teaching on the Bodhicharyavatara?
Yes.
Yesterday? Yes. Okay, good. I will use one example from there. Okay. But first, your example, you work like a psychologist, or something like that, right?
No, people assume that. I just work as a professor. I actually have never taken any therapy or clinical psychology stuff. So yeah.
Okay. Then I start with myself. So when I worked as a doctor, yes, everybody who comes with a sickness to me, I could say it's their karma, and then say, okay, goodbye. That's it. Or if people come to you as a professor and you say, oh, it's your karma to be ignorant about a certain topic that I could teach, but it's your karma to be ignorant, therefore bye-bye, I'm not teaching you. So that doesn't work. So because it's also their karma to meet you in the university, or it's also their karma to meet me in the hospital, to help them. And definitely it's my karma to meet them, and therefore my responsibility. Yeah, so karma, karma is not like fate, but of course it's maybe it's easier with that doctor, so it's that they are sick now is because of their previous karma, of course, but it's not set in stones, it's not their fate, but sort of they have the good karma or merit or fortune to, not meet me, but meet me as a mediator to give them the medicine that they need. But yeah, okay, in that example, yes, they have the good fortune to meet somebody who maybe have studied some medicine and can help. So yeah, and if I not respond to that, then yeah, that is just cynical or ignorant. Yes, but nevertheless, that's why I'm saying that. So that is how I usually think. And yesterday, Dotrulko was saying something. How did he put it? I forgot, but he was talking about very bad people who treat others very badly and are very arrogant. I forgot the example exactly, but then he said, then maybe out of their karma, next life, they will be born as slaves or servants. So let's say slaves. So, and then I really noticed in my mind that I thought, yes, they deserve it. And maybe by being a slave for a couple of years, you know, they will understand how bad it is to be treated badly, you know. So and I was really surprised that I felt like that. Because yeah, if I would then come to the situation, of course, it's my responsibility to free that slave immediately, as soon as possible, you know. But still, I thought, yeah, maybe it's a good lesson for them, you know. Yeah, this is not sharing any teaching. This is just my confession, you know. How I noticed how easy I thought, yes, it's their karma, so they deserve it, and so they should undergo some suffering. It's a learning potential. But we should not see it like that. Yes, they are suffering because of their karma, but we as bodhisattvas still should do everything to relieve their suffering. But yes, on Facebook, I'm recently following some groups, very dodgy groups, like Buddhism in Germany, it's called. It's so bad what is happening there. And then sometimes people say exactly that, yeah, it's the karma of people to whatever, suffer or starve or be in a war, like a victim, you know. Yeah, that's it, you know, it's their karma, and I'm not doing anything about it. That is definitely not the bodhisattva way of reacting to it, you know. We are not trained to understand the catastrophe of what is going on in somebody else's mind and then stay ignorant or like a piece of wood in that regard, you know. But that should yeah, activate our compassion and yeah, altruistic activity. Or what do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Arne. I think two things you said are very important for me. One is that, you know, it is also their karma or your combined karma to be in touch with them. And the second one is, yes, it's also like my confession. It's not like I would like to think in this way, but because I have an incomplete understanding of karma, this is the first like thing that my mind kind of says. But the one thing that I have been checking myself with is that if I had the complete understanding of karma, I would know that causes and effects don't exactly perhaps work like this. That, you know, you hurt me, you were my slave in last life, so now I'll be your slave. It's probably a little bit more complicated.
Of course, yeah.
So maybe I can just correct myself along that, saying this is more complicated. I have been given the fortune of interacting with them, so I'll just help however I can. Maybe.
Yeah, I remember, but when I think I was a child, you know, I was really wondering, you know, when I was walking to school and there's a puddle, you know, and then if I see insects in that, you know, then I felt bad of not helping them. Of course, I think that's good, you know. But then if there are other puddles in another street where there are also insects drowning, that is sort of different, you know. Then I didn't feel that bad because I don't see them. I'm not in the situation, you know. But I think, and some Rinpoche, I think Dzogchen Ponop Rinpoche also said that once. If we are in the situation and we're seeing that suffering, then yes, then it's our responsibility or co-responsibility to do something. So like, yeah, if I see an insect drowning in the puddle, then I'm part of that situation, you know, and then I should do the best I can. But of course, if I don't see a bad situation, then yes, that's it. It's like in hospital also, another example, you know, like sometimes especially night shift, the doctors or nurses get annoyed, if there are patients coming with very minor things, like if somebody comes in the middle of the night and saying, I have insomnia since 3 weeks, that is like, why are you coming now? Why can't you wait 4 more hours when the doctor's office is open? So, but the by law, whoever makes it in the door of the hospital is your responsibility. That is very strongly said. So if then somebody has a heart attack in your corridor, because he is entering your hospital, that was then, if I was the doctor in charge, that would be my responsibility to take care of him or her. So I cannot just send them away and say, go to another doctor in 4 hours, But of course, if somebody is at home and I'm not seeing the person having a heart attack there, I'm not responsible. So therefore, yes, whatever is happening in our world, that is, our job to improve it. Sorry, so many doctors' examples. Pallavi, I think.
Yeah. So my question is twofold. The first question. So the first question is basically, we come from, relatively speaking, we have so many, okay, I'll speak for myself, I'll not say we. I may have so many rigid and solidified ways of being that despite some practices, I don't really see it. And it's just like that ignorance, the veil is still there, so strong and thick, like a wall. And it takes time because of the transition of going on the path. Of course, we've met the path, that's a big fortune. But how does somebody even know in that state that what we're supposed to do if the veil is so thick? Because the ignorance won't go away just like that. Yeah. And you're in a state where you're seeing the suffering, you know that can be better, but you don't know anything how to respond to it. Secondly, in connection to that, I again don't know many a times how to respond to a situation, and I'm just mirroring the person's reactions or behavior. And I don't really know how I can be wise to really make the situation better because of my first situation. So how do I really change unless even the opposite person is really more wiser than me and is okay to show that compassion, saying that, no, you're wrong, or no, you're not wrong, or maybe this could be done in a certain way. But if we are both in the same puddle, then of course there's no coming out of the puddle anyways. So how does one kind of deal with such a situation? Because you don't know any better than to just mirror or respond to the way you are treated as a behavior of the person opposite. And then in that case, whether it's anger or it's patience, doesn't even matter because you don't know it better. So I'm not like, I admit that I'm not the wise one, of course. So how do I be the wise one and make things better and not suffer, so to say?
Yeah, thank you. First, yes, of course, that is, both, I think that's our problem. We maybe now, thanks to Bodhisattva teachings, Lojong teachings, we maybe want to help more or be of more benefit. But still, our habits are the good, quote unquote, old ones. And they always come into our way, and that is the only way how we know how to react. So therefore, we whatever we can do to free ourselves from them and not be their victim, and again to not have that as the default reaction. The more we can liberate ourselves from them, the better. And yes, for that we need wisdom, basically, mainly, and of course skillful means, but also compassion. So I think these three, they always go together, and like a little bit there, like Shenresik, Manjushri, and Vajrapani, you know, like these three together. So if we can find a gap, you know, in ourselves, or some space not to jump into the usual way of thinking or track of thoughts in our usual habitual patterns, then I think the less we do that, the more we more space we have to be more skillful and more adequate. Like you know, in the Buddha nature teachings, you know, the less clouds we have, the more the Buddha nature can shine through. So that is our aim here. The less clouds of habits we have, the more spontaneous and free willness we can manifest, and then really help. And then we can also better understand the situation and the other person, and then yes, we can react better. Does that make sense, or is it too general?
No, I know where you're coming from. I can right now I can relate more to your explanation to the first part of my question. But the second one is, if you don't even know that it's an obscuration,
yes,
and then what do we do?
Then we have to receive more teachings.
Sorry?
No, then we have to receive more teachings to really understand what is an obscuration and what not, you know, like distinguishing wisdom from ignorance, you know, it's not so easy sometimes, because ignorance is
because it's very
tricky.
subtle, you know, like it as easy it may sound, like, oh, like, I mean, how can we not see an obscuration? It sounds as blatant as possible. But being well-meaning people or individuals, when we don't even know it's an obscuration, we want certain things to happen a certain way, and you're like frustrated, and it's like, what do I do?
Yeah, but really the first thing is to know the enemy. So like, wait, you have been, no, you didn't have, okay, the Four Noble Truths, you know the suffering, and then second, know the cause of suffering, and abandon it. So Buddha had to teach that, because we don't know. So first of all, that we have to know the suffering, which means the painful situation, and then to know the cause of suffering and abandon it is to understand the obscurations and diagnose them properly, that they are obscurations.
So a quick curious question following that: will certain practices help? Like, I'm just curious, like a practice-oriented approach, if there's something that can be done to kind of really highlight what it is. I'm sure I mean, of course there is a solution, and it might be right here, but what are the approaches that
to recognize obscuration as obscuration? Is that?
Yeah, like, I mean, how do I like kind of bring it to light and know that this is something, not only just an obscuration, but what obscuration is this?
Oh, I think I mean, that sounds very generic, but meditation is the best, to get to know your mind and really watch your mind, and then, whatever is limited, whatever is unclear, whatever is solidifying, whatever is exclusive, whatever is short-termish, all that is more on the side of obscuration. And wisdom is always the opposite, it's like limitless, it's more spacious, it's all-encompassing, it's more like long-termish. And the obscuration is more blinding. But and of course, like egoism and altruism, that kind of thing. But that's a really great question. It's like Dzongchen Khyentse Rinpoche's example is, I think, if you are born in a cinema, and you only know that, then you just think that is the reality, or the classic example, I think, is this frog, who only knows his own pond, and has no idea how vast the ocean is. So that is the problem of habits, like habituation and familiarity, that we only know the cinema and we don't have the vastness or the big scope, same with the pond. For me, it really helps to receive teachings and constantly get these fingers, that point to the, what is it, outside of the cinema or outside of to the ocean or to the wisdom, and also describing how obscurations are. And yeah, that I think that's the best for me to understand that more. And then if I have, then also thanks to meditation, I have maybe a little bit calmer and not too speedy mind, then maybe I can perceive those obscurations more easily. But it's difficult. I mean, that's the whole problem in samsara, that we don't differentiate that properly, and we think, oh,
Yeah, I agree on the meditation bit, because that's helped me a lot to quite an extent. So maybe I'll try this for the most rigid situations also. Hopefully
but
that
also
helps in that area.
But also, even though it sounds intellectual, but also just teachings help me, if they tell me what is the real thing, what is reliable, let's say Buddha nature, and, and then I understand, yes, the sky or space is another ball game than the clouds that I'm so used to, So just that helps me, to, but then of course, still I have to understand that what I'm used to is a cloud, and I should not egoistically think that is the space. Yeah, but I think for me, really, like teachings help me to broaden up and understand how limited my view, perception, and agenda is.
So, sorry, one last question.
Yeah.
Because with accumulation of merit and wisdom, till the time you'll come across the teachings which just spark that light, I'm sorry, I'm being a little cheeky and shortcut here, but is there a stopgap arrangement till then?
What is that?
So that you don't wait. So basically, we need a lot of accumulation of merit and wisdom till the time we come across the right teachings. But till then, what do we do?
I always like this cloud and sun example. Yeah. So let's say I'm living my life very cloudy, and like the same with Rinpoche when he says, yeah, you lived all your life in the cinema, but I'm living so very cloudy, and I've never seen the sun. So therefore, the clouds look like the normal sky for me, and I have no idea that there's a sun. But the sun. The clouds sometimes break through, like, yes, maybe thanks to a teacher, but maybe also sometimes just if I have, I mean, we learn that in the Untitled Chapter teachings, like if I meet somebody and then I have sometimes even I have this unconditioned compassion, sometimes it comes through, or I have this strong conviction or confidence or optimism, or like inquisitive mind, like Prince Siddhartha, those things, they are all clouds. They're all the sun is shining through a little bit through the clouds. So, so therefore, you don't have to wait years to accumulate enough merit. But I'm sure the sun sometimes shines through in your life too. So, and then because then it's otherwise you're like in a hell realm where so much suffering you don't know anything else. But if sometimes the sun shines through, then you can more easily differentiate. You see, that is the sun. It's so different from the clouds, And for example, if sometimes it really happens, then some compassion is so overwhelming, and then yes, that is, I can see that is much better MO, what is mode of operandi? I don't know, but much better way of working for my mind than being my usual self, So my main thing is by sometimes having epiphanies or insights or compassion, or strong optimism. Yeah, investigative mind. I think that puts the obscurations into perspective, and then yeah, that's different. That's just more limiting and more dark. And then in comparison, then it makes clear what it's about. Does that make sense? Or
Yes, of course. Well, of course, I'll have to process this and contemplate a little more on this. Like, of course, because relating it back directly and but it makes sense, of course.
Also, sometimes just let's say you have one particular habit, and then maybe in one moment you can not follow it and do it differently. You know, that is already a breakthrough that shows how maybe lighter your life is. You know, without the need to follow that old habit. So I mean, I'm just trying to convince you that you don't have to accumulate merit for kalpas, but that there are always these small things, you know, where one can have confidence and one can diagnose obscurations as what they are.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, there's some written things. Jangshu was saying, however, when bad things happen to me, it's hard to believe that I deserve it, isn't it? Yes, like disease, you know, I always ask myself, why me? You know, that kind of thing. It's hard to believe. But yeah, there also, I think the Buddhist teachings help to, the karma teachings help to maybe more easily accept that it's definitely not randomly happening. And also I heard teachers say that like if I'm in a specific situation and I'm not really, I cannot really accept it or whatever, you know, then for example, in our case, I'm angry and I have so many reasons and attempt to justify it. Then, or if I'm sick, you know, and then I cannot accept that it's my karma, then, sorry, the teachers are saying that it's better to then generally first try to establish the view, you know, how karma is working, or generally try to establish the view how negative jealousy is and so on. So that to first start very big, you know, and then that is more acceptable, and then we can apply to ourselves, and then also we can accept, yes, the bad things that happen to ourselves are something that is created by our karma. But still, like deserve maybe is also a dangerous word. Yeah, I should not think I deserve it, you know, but it's like it's not independent of my doing. And then Michelle's thing to Emilia. Yes, so her ex-friends might also be very busy at the moment or have problems themselves. Yes, exactly. So that is because they're in samsara. So therefore, don't expect them to be there like a Buddha all the time, you know, but they might be totally, yeah, what Michelle is saying, all of that, you know, suffering. And yes, even though we might argue, yeah, but still, you know, like they could send one WhatsApp message, you know, that takes 10 seconds just to say, my dear Emilia, I still love you, but just difficulties. But even that sometimes is too much. I noticed that myself, you know, and then people suffer because obvious, it's just 10 seconds, but I don't know. I don't have the mental space sometimes. So therefore I can really relate with your experience. But the point of Michelle is definitely great, like putting ourselves in the other person's shoes or trying to understand the situation of others, you know. And yes, since we are both in samsara, then yes, miscommunication will happen anyway. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. Oh, Michelle wrote another thing. Well, it would be very easy if each time we are under the influence of obscurations, maybe that's for Pallavi, or in that context, we recognize that there's obscuration. That's the problem. Obscurations fall on us without being recognized immediately and make us do wrong things or perceive things wrongly. Exactly. That is a good thing about I mean, that is not a good thing, but that is the strategy of obscurations. Like, yeah, they all have their survival strategy, like COVID virus, you know, it is mutating all the time, you know, like HIV, you know, and that is their survival strategy. I mean, the virus has to think about itself, sort of, and likewise the obscuration also has to think about itself, and therefore is presenting itself, of course, not as an obscuration, but as maybe a quality or insight. Yeah. Yeah, and that exactly makes it tricky. Yeah, I mean, we know from the teachings, like anger, for example, is therefore more like an obscuration that is more easily to detect. You know, it's so obvious. You know, but yeah, I think today, Ishani, we heard that also. Like desire is more hidden, you know, like more undercover. It might even look like love, you know, or like attachment might look like love. What was the example? Like yeah, yesterday it was like if somebody puts a small puppy on your lap, you know, then that is actually a dangerous situation, because we are so prone to get attached to that puppy, you know, like, so attachment easily comes in, and we might not notice it. But the good thing about anger is it's so obviously wrong, you know, it's so obviously, but usually other obscurations, as Michelle is saying, yeah, they are yeah, in disguise, and it's difficult to recognize them as obscurations. Yeah, and that's what I meant with to Pallavi. If the clouds break up a little bit and then the sun shines through, then it's more easy to understand what is a cloud and what is sun. But if you only know the clouds, then yeah, we don't know what is the sun. Yeah, thank you guys for that discussion and all these insights and sharing. Anybody else? Otherwise, oh, Michelle in person.
You'll hear me, because you don't hear me. I think it's my computer itself.
Oh, it's okay.
You hear me?
Yes.
Good. Also about seeing people with bad karma and thinking, well, okay, it's their karma, but we are practitioners. We have received the basic of teachings, and we have tools for that. That's the moment to practice Tonglen, or to recognize their suffering, because we suffer too. Everybody suffers. We know that, even people who seem to have everything, and I see a lot of them. They are group, always doing feast and drinking and being happy, but within themselves they do that because they have a suffering in words, this over-pervading suffering. Everybody has it, so we cannot ignore and just say, okay, it's their problem. We have to take that problem in consideration, and wishing, at least wishing them getting better. I mean, I don't think it's a problem to Ishani. I don't think it's really a problem. You know, it's you look at that and what to do else than wishing good to these people with bad karma, or picking up the wasps that fell in the bucket of water, you know, just not let that insect drown, or there are always things to do, and remain aware of this karma, which is everything is karma. There is not one thing that we take in our hand, or it's always karma. So we have to be aware of this ongoing of things always changing, and situations, and etc. We know that, we have learned that already.
No, I totally agree, Michelle. That is exactly how it is said in the teaching. That's what I meant. Also, it's our responsibility, or yeah, we are not learning all these things about karma just to stay lazy and idle and not help, you know. But still, I found it very interesting that Ishani was raising it, because recently, I know she's not thinking like that, you know, but I read it so often in social media, you know. Yeah, it's their karma, so too bad, you know. not my problem, you know. So that is so ignorant, yeah, I think, yeah. Especially if what you say, if you receive teachings, then of course it's very, very clear, you know, it's our job to help, you know, in whatever way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle, if I may add. Yeah, so this is, I mean, it is a constant thing I deal with also, right? On the one hand, I immediately go to help and apply the practices that you were saying and, you know, wish that the suffering be gone for them. But it's like the other thing that Pallavi was saying, how to recognize an obscuration. It's like, you know, like even the thought that, okay, this person is going through this because of their karma, I feel is an obscuration for me. You know, it's not a helpful thought because I don't have the correct understanding of karma. So I think it was something that Arne just said, which is just thinking that this is not randomly happening, I think will help me a lot, because then you're not trying to say, oh, this person must have done this to deserve this, or I must have done this to, because all of that is going to, I think right now where I am at, lead to the wrong conclusion. So I think I want to apply both of these, like what you said, like help them. And the second thing is like attack my own obscuration simultaneously. But thank you so much for the encouragement. Yeah.
And also to Pallavi, since Ishana brought it up again, like detecting or recognizing obscuration is obscuration. Now I forgot it again. Right. Yeah, I think what is very helpful is not being so full of oneself, you know, but understanding, you know, that my way of seeing things is not the highway, you know, like it's like one tiny version maybe, but I think I know you, Pallavi, you're not like that, but in general, I think the more full one is of yourself, oneself is the more, the less one is reflecting, you know, like one is not self-reflected, or I don't know, in a good sense, but one is just believing it so strictly, you know. But I think the more open one has, the more one has a positive doubt, you know, in regards to one's own habits and mental states. That I think is, that is only possible if one has that humbleness, you know. And there also, like, maybe even though I didn't see a cloud, didn't see a sun rays yet, because constantly it's cloudy, even though that is not the case, but because we always have these chances, but still, by seeing, for example, Rinpoche, you know, how different he can be, you know, that, or she can be, whoever our teacher is, you know, then that also shows me, you know, that yes, there's another way of functioning possible, and I'm not manifesting that because of obscurations, sort of. So if I see their sun, basically, you know, like sun and sunshine. You know? Oh, that was great. Thank you all. It's nice to see on gallery view who's talking to whom and writing to whom.
Arne.
Yes, Emilia.
I just wanted to add, well, I mean, I've written on the chat, and you know that because I emailed you asking for advice. I have a mice infestation here where I live. It's just, it's looking back, it's understanding and accepting my own ignorance of not checking the house, absolutely unaware that this type of houses might go in the winter, in this case in the summer as well, which means they're just nesting here straight. And being, I don't really have a choice. You mentioned to try not to go into the poison situation, but I don't have a choice, because it's just all over underneath the floor, my cat I go bananas, she goes bananas with all, you know, the noise, and it's been nearly 3 months now. So it gets the danger side of procreation and then more mice and so on. And so I see the path from ignorance, like knowledge, ignorance of not understanding what's the setting of these types of houses and so on. Not really blaming the previous person, the previous owner, because anyway, she wanted to sell. It was on me to check and to actually know, but to be contemplated with a situation where I'm actually having to make a decision about someone else's life, how to put it, it's being awful. You know, I have to live with it. And I'm actually chanting mantras and for them, for me, anyway, while they're still here. Well, while the person doesn't come with the poison to do the job. But also at the same time, I started to feel the other stuff going on in my life. So, like, why am I bothering about this? You know what I mean? I think I understand its karma. I understand its cause and conditions. Is, you know, just looking back, even from the knowledge, ignorance of selecting a place that obviously was going to lead to this kind of situation. So many more in Sweden is exactly the same. But people get the cats to go and kill mice, cats and dogs, and I refuse to do that. And it just brought some kind of, I was, wow, this must be the other side of the coin, because I started to look at stuff at work and and it's, so what? Because it just brought me to a situation where I'm dealing with life, you know, like sentient lives. And it got a priority in terms of importance. You understand what I'm trying to say? So much higher that it made everything else just look so like, so what? So it's helping me. Unbelievable. It's helping me to deal with the other stuff that I have in life, you know, work and taking quite a different perspective. I had no idea anyway. I've been on denial for nearly 3 months. See, I'm not going to do anything, but I cannot. I can't, because it's, anyway, I've got to engage. I've got to do, well, the other option would just be abandon the house. I don't know. Or to let them all come in, and then I would have to kill them anyway. So I don't really have a choice. But I don't want to use the word, but that's the word that comes to mind. It just, to me, made everything else look superficial in terms of my usual worrying about, you know, oh, at work, and then why, oh, that person is like, drop it. This is like nothing compared to where you are now. So for me, it was a wake-up call, you know, and it's like, enough. So even with the stuff that I'm going to do here is like, enough. I had enough. And anyway, as I mentioned to you on the email, even thinking about moving, to go and move to another place. But yeah, it's an amazing learning. I can't, you work as a medical doctor. I mean, I can't really think how was from the beginning of the pandemic, and I'm sure it's still happening worldwide, where medical doctors have to make the decision on who is actually going to get the oxygen and who is not going to get it. You know, this was quite high happening in Italy in the beginning of the pandemic. It's like, I don't know how the mind, how they can go without being with something which is really traumatic in big time relation to human beings. Well, you know, mice is just the way they are in this reincarnation. But yeah, I think it's heavy. I couldn't be a medical doctor anyway. Not the profession I would want.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I hope it's okay that we don't talk about the mice now because we emailed, but generally that helps also to put things into perspective. Like if it's about life and death, then yeah, things getting really small, you know, like other things that otherwise seem to be so big, you know, that is definitely the case. And Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche also said that once, you know, if, for example, a family member dies, you know, then so many other conflicts are really like put so much into perspective. And that really is a wake-up call, or that really makes us think. What's it? Yeah, but great that it's a learning process, and yeah, it's really good that you see it like that. But if you want to talk more about that particular situation, then just email me again, okay? Just, I don't know if other people are waiting for Shantideva's next verse, which I will display now. I even forgot where we are. 70. Oh yeah, these two go together, I think, 70 and 71. For example, when a fire in one house has moved into another house, it is right to get rid of straw and such things that will cause the fire to spread. Likewise, when the fire of hatred spreads to whatever my mind is attached, I should immediately get rid of it for fear of my merit being burned. So remember this, the whole context here is, according to the commentators, you know, who put headings in between the verses, which Shantideva didn't do so much. He put like 10 headings, or sometimes 11, I heard, because chapter 6 sometimes is part 1 and part 2. Anyway, so the commentators put these verses that we are in at the moment into the situation that we normally get angry when our loved ones get hurt. So that is, please have that in mind. And here Shantideva is first of all pointing out that attachment to our loved ones is the reason why we're getting angry in the first place. And then also he's trying to, well, hopefully not trying, but is making us de-escalate the situation, you know, or pacify or pre-empty our anger. And so for that, he's giving the example, like there's one house and another house. So from house A to house B and then to house C, the fire easily spreads. If there are like many inflammable things in one house, you know, for example, if we have a lot of gas open maybe, or dry wood or straw in our house, or fuel, and maybe if there's a garage with cars and so on. And so, and maybe even these inflammable items are valuable, but that is not the point, not yet. But the problem is they are inflammable, and therefore they help that fire is spreading from the neighbor's house to my house, and then maybe to the next house. So, and in order to stop the spreading of the fire from house to house, it would be good to throw these inflammable things out, but we don't do that because we are very attached to them, and therefore easily the house spreads from house A to mine and then to house C. And that is the example. And then if we apply it on the situation that hatred is like the fire here, and that we want to stop spreading in our mind, and therefore we need to of course we don't need to get rid of like our loved ones in this case, but what is inflammable is our attachment, you know, our attachment to parents and friends and family. So that attachment we need to get rid of our mind, because then in the example of the house, then the anger cannot spread so easily, because the attachment is that what is inflammable, and that will nourish the anger. Like I'm of course more it sounds very cold-hearted, but from Buddhist point of view it's a little bit like that, you know, that even though I think I love my kids or my parents or my husband or wife, of course there's love also, but there's a lot of attachment, and because there's a lot of attachment, therefore I'm getting angry if somebody, for example, is insulting my partner, but I'm not getting angry if that same person is insulting the neighbor, let's say. And that is because I have attachment to my partner, but not attachment to the neighbor. So that is the logic here, and therefore it is important to let go of that attachment. Of course, we're not letting go of the love, but just letting go of that attachment, and that will also help help the situation that we are not getting so angry, because attachment is always the thing that produces the anger. I think I told that story or example. I think the classical example is with a horse, and I think last time I was talking about a mobile phone that we buy in a shop. But the classical example is if we want to buy a horse somewhere in a horse market, then if we just go to the shop or whatever, and then there's a horse, and we look one horse after the other, and then maybe one horse is getting sick or is losing a teeth or whatever, it's not affecting us so much. But the moment we have bought the horse, and then we in our mind we say it's my horse, and we are, you know, we are. Jigme Khenso was saying, like, we are mentally peeing around it, so like we are attached to it, then that is a problem, you know. Then if our horse then has a, let's say, physical problem that we didn't know before when we bought it, or if it's getting it later, it doesn't matter, but then we suffer, you know, we get angry, you know. But it's only because we gave the money, you know, and because we attached, by giving the money, we got attached to our horse. That is a classic example. So likewise, here, that attachment is what needs to get rid of, and because that is fueling our anger. And but again, you know, we are not getting rid of our love. That is, of course, a good thing to keep. And for example, if we have love and attachment to our partner, yes, let's only drop the attachment and the love that we have for our partner. I heard the teachings that we could perceive our partner, for example, as a representative for all sentient beings. So our aim is to be to practice equanimity. So therefore, we are not. Our aim is not to treat everybody as bad as our enemy, but try to treat everybody as good and loving as our partner, for example. So that way around. So therefore, that love, of course, we should keep, but the attachment we should drop. And yes, Michelle, that is Michelle is asking, how is love without attachment? How is this managed? Yes, as long as we are in samsara, we always have that mixed thing. You know, we have attachment and love together. Yeah, I talked. Yeah, I was there with different masters on that topic. You know, like relationships, for example. That is impossible at the moment to have only love, because strictly speaking, only a Buddha has that unconditioned love. Because even the Bhumi Bodhisattvas, they have some attachment and post-meditation. So therefore, we are bound to have that mixture at the moment. But yeah, our job is to improve or strengthen the love and reduce the attachment. And also I heard that, for example, you know, like to make it maybe more clear, like there are some relationships, you know, that are like, you know, yeah, just to make it clear, I heard that, you know, like they're purely sexual. So let's say that is more attachment than anything else, you know, more lust or desire. And then, okay, to make it even more strong, so you only perceive the other person as an object, you know, who should satisfy you, you know, and that, because that is, if that is the basis, you know, of a relationship, then of course many more kleshas, like negative emotions, will arise. But then on what we definitely can do in our stage is, yes, of course, we have attachment, sexual desire to somebody, but we should try that at least the main thing of the relationship is valuing the other person, respecting the other person, that there's really a connection, a deep sense of care, and yeah, like care in the sense of love, you know, really like we want the other person to be happy and we want to be supportive. So that's what I said, you know, that's what I heard. So so of course it's so normal that we have this attachment and, for example, sexual desire and other desires, you know. But at least that is something we can do, you know, that we strengthen the respect and the love and the care and the empathy and the supportiveness and so on. And then these relationships will last much longer, are much more reliable and less full of kleshas. Of course, fights and arguments might still happen, but that is also happening like within me alone, you know. So therefore, of course, it's also happening with somebody else. Yeah, so yeah, the realistic answer, what I heard is yes, it's everything what we do also in our practice is always like mixed, you know. There are good qualities, but there are also like negative habits or emotions in it, of course, because that is our mental setting at the moment. But as the previous Khyentse Rinpoche said, then yeah, focus on the good ones, you know, the good intentions, the good thoughts, the good feelings, and strengthen them, but don't give any food to the negative thoughts or negative emotions. And then, yeah, little by little, we will improve. Okay, let's do one more. 72. Yeah, even though that is giving a totally new situation here. Why is a man condemned to death not fortunate if he or she is released after having his or her hand cut off? Why am I, who am experiencing human misery, not fortunate if by that I'm spared from the agonies of hell? I'm so happy to use this translation. With Dr. yesterday, I had to read Padma Kar's translation, which I heard from many teachers they prefer, but for me, it's just, the English is just too high. And this one here is nice and simple. So even I can read it. Okay, so the idea is, for example, if, let's say, my friends get insulted, so let's say Pallavi is getting insulted, yeah, and then by somebody else, a third person, and then you, all other non-Pallavis here in the Zoom, you will think, yeah, so she's getting insulted, you know, she's, I'm her friend, and therefore you, if I'm not defending her, all of you others, you will find that strange that I'm not defending her. That is a story here, according to the commentators. Because you all think, yeah, I should rescue her, I should defend her. Yeah, and maybe that's okay, but you even expect me to be angry, you know, and angry with the one who insulted her, and so on. That is like in many old movies, like I don't know, I don't know, medieval times, I don't know, movies are like that, you know. And then okay, that is like in the background, you know. So let's assume that you guys would expect that I'm getting angry and that I'm defending Pallavi, and with maybe even harsh words, you know. Yes, I have to show him, you know, maybe kick him, you know. So that is the story, and then the example is, okay, somebody is sentenced to death, and then if because the law or the king or queen is saying that, you know, and then if then there's some change in law, or the queen has mercy and so on, and then they say, okay, you, Arne, no, it doesn't matter now who is this. So this person, the prisoner, is not sentenced to death anymore, but maybe just amputating the hand, you know, or the arm. That is punishment enough, and but the queen is giving the pardon, or however it's called, and then the prisoner is set free, but without a hand or arm. So then, even though that is super painful, you know, to lose a hand or to lose an arm or whatever, leg, or then still this prisoner will be very happy, you know, to have that smaller suffering of losing the hand compared to losing the life, you know, which would be much more suffering. And therefore, what Shantideva here is saying, if I am now, if I would, because I see all you, you know, and you, I see that you're expecting that I should be angry, you know, to defend Pallavi. So if I do that, you know, and be angry and full of hatred and plan big revenge and maybe destroy that other family and 7 generations and so on, you know, then my hatred to that enemy then will, you don't need to take that literal, but like here in Shantideva's text, it is said that will bring me to hell. So that's like a very long-lasting and very intense suffering. That is compared to the death sentence earlier. But I can escape that big suffering of being in hell just by being patient. But still, there's some suffering that is happening because all of you, you will think strangely about me, that I wasn't defending Pallavi properly, and so that scorn or that insult that you might give to me for not being a good friend to Pallavi, that suffering is like the amputated hand. You know, it's still a suffering, but it is not that long-lasting and it's not that intense. And therefore, Shantideva is saying, yeah, so therefore it's better in that, even in that situation, even if other people expect me to defend my friend, for example, and be angry and be revengeful, even if they think lowly of me, that suffering is much better than being hateful and then falling into hell. So likewise, yeah, losing one hand is much better than losing one's life. Yeah, I guess you got the idea. So Pallavi, please no. I can still care, but without hatred, of course. Yeah, but that is the idea here, and that is again pointing to the big side effect or harm that hatred can produce, or anger or aversion. I mean, aversion is just a small daughter or sister or brother of hatred. I don't know, but they're all going through the same direction, and they create so many negative consequences. So therefore, even for example, if the society is maybe expecting me to be angry in certain situations, it's still better not to do that. Just for my own peace of mind, for my merit, but also, as I repeatedly said, you know, if I have no anger in mind, I have a much better chance to be compassionate and skillful and wise in a certain situation. Yeah, sorry, we are over time already. Yeah. So I hope therefore this example makes sense. That it's yeah, I know you are not looking strange at me if I'm and so on, but maybe sometimes we are indeed in a situation, you know, where people expect us to be angry or hateful or do certain negative things, and then yeah, Shantideva is saying better than to not do that, even though you are suffering a little bit because the other people think badly about you. Okay, sorry, long story short. Maybe it's related, we could even, just spontaneous thought, it's like related also to the 8 worldly dharmas, you know, like being praised and so on, you know, so better to sacrifice being praised and so on, and not, yeah, being full of hatred. Okay, sorry for being over time, and especially last 5 minutes where I think not so straightforward. Okay, let's stop then. Thank you very much for being here, and really, I always like the interactiveness, and really, Amelia, if you have, that's also strange because Amelia wrote me about the mice, and then the next day somebody wrote me about ants in the house. So that is apparently a common theme at the moment, and yeah, it's so difficult. Sometimes situations, sometimes it's impossible to find a peaceful solution. That's unfortunately the case also. Okay, let's find the prayers. Share them. By this merit, having attained omniscience and defeated the enemy of wrongdoing, may I free all beings from the ocean of existence with its tumultuous waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Just as the heroic Manjushri who knows everything as it is, and as Samantabhata likewise did too, just so to follow all of them and train myself, I perfectly dedicate these meritorious actions. May the precious supreme bodhichitta arise in those in whom it has not arisen. Having arisen, may it not diminish, but ever expand more and more. As long as space remains and as long as the world remains, may I too remain to elevate the suffering of the world. May I in each and every lifetime carry the weight of Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings And if I cannot bear that weight, at the very least, I be born with the burden of thinking that the Buddha Dharma could wane. Okay, thank you so much. It was good to see you all. Stay healthy.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thank you, Arne.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.